away then from the British Grand Prix weekend and head into the great Hungarian round of the championship. We're all set then. For FIA Formula 3, we've been hit by the same technological problems that everyone else in the world has at the moment, so for the time we're going to head to the world feed and try and get this sorted. Here's to Chris McCarthy and Alex Brundle.
He is very, very quick around this circuit, has great memories here. Could be one to watch. The high-tech Pulsar driver will be fired up as he returns to the series. There, Dino Beganovic will feel he's falling away slightly in championship terms, but now the drivers have had a weekend off, Alex, to reset. They come into a double header. We really are in the end stages of the championship. It is all or nothing now, isn't it, if it wasn't so before?
It's amazing, isn't it, the Formula 3 Championship, you zoom towards the conclusion of it so early in the Formula 1 calendar is how it feels. But as you correctly say, Dino Beganovic falling slightly away, 6th in the championship now, one of 9 race winners that we've seen throughout this year, an 11th and a 19th in Silverstone after a more difficult race weekend than he'd had throughout the rest of the season. Had a great run of point-scoring finishes from sort of Melbourne on through to Barcelona, but after that, barring the podium that he took at Red Bull Ring, it's been a little bit more of a difficult time. See what's going on for Gabriele Mini, the Alpine liveried car. You can see front of shot, just having to be pushed back there ahead of the 22 car as it rolled in.
Now that's Tommy Smith. Now that was one of the good stories actually that came out of last round. We'll go through those throughout the session. Tommy Smith scoring his first points in Formula 3 last time. He put in a fantastic performance, charging through to finish in P4. Came from the back of the grid in doing so, did Tommy Smith. He started in 20. He came from 23rd up to 4th in the last 5 laps of the race. Was one of those who came in for 6 on the formation lap. And what a result for him. I mean, it was such an up and down
Yeah,
race.
we're just figuring out what's going on ourselves.
Hugely emotionally draining for the drivers, but Tommy Smith making the right call. And big time for him and the Van Amersfoort team.
Great practice for these young drivers. I mean, there was always a moment in that race for every driver where they were on the wrong tyres.
Yes.
And it's something that you always have to engage with as a driver. There are going to be phases throughout your season, throughout your year, where you just find yourself on the wrong tyre at the wrong time. Some came out on top.
They certainly did, and one that did was Gabriele Mini. He is now leading the championship after taking that podium finish at Silverstone, and we spoke to him about the added pressure now in the title race yesterday.
To be honest, not really too much more pressure than other rounds. Of course, then it will be another story maybe on the last round, home race, and if we will still be in the title fight, we will see how it goes. It will be another thing, but for the moment I'm not thinking too much about it. The goal is always the same in the end. As much info as you can and try to put it together in qualifying and still bring the points home in the race. There is nothing changing in my approach and not really pressure either.
There we go, that's Gabriele Mini finding himself now leading
the championship, and it's been a season for him where he seems to have been just consistent throughout, got better and better as the season's gone on. That Monaco feature race win really helping for him, I think, and then 2 back-to-back feature race podiums in the last 2 rounds have scored him big points. Santiago Ramos for the Trident team watching on. We've got a lot of drivers, I think, watching on. Let's talk about the Hungarian circuit quickly. High tire degradation around here. We're expecting high temperatures all weekend as well, despite the pictures some of you may have seen that the track was partially flooded at one stage. It's going to be high temperatures all weekend.
It's not a huge energy layout. There's a lot of turns. It's just over a 50% full throttle percentage here, so there's a lot to do for the tyre. But you're never actually going particularly fast in modern single-seater racing terms. What it is very, very sensitive to circuit temperature, to track temperature. And when the track temperature gets high, because the tyre is asked to corner and corner again, you really do damage it over the course of the lap. We've moved a compound harder this year towards the hard tyre, the hardest in the range for Formula 3. We're here with the medium last time out. So drivers will have less management to do, but it's still a factor here. On the hard tyre, teams are expecting drivers to be able to push pretty much flat out for the full race distance, but as you say, we're already up at 42 degrees track temperature. It's just past 10 a.m. in the morning local. So as you get into the middle of the day for these Formula 3 drivers, it's going to be tougher and tougher to keep the tyre underneath them.
Yeah, no, that's certainly going to be a factor. One also thing, I think this is a track many of them are familiar with, so I don't think there's going to be a huge rush out the pit lane. It's a very popular circuit amongst many categories that they would have raced in, so I think most drivers out there will be familiar with this circuit.
It's quite a bumpy track. It's all action, tricky to overtake. One of the harder circuits of the year to overtake. One of the warmer circuits as well, and one of the more physical for the drivers. So we tend to get high air temperature, and as I say, it's all action, particularly on the steering wheel. And I know that there have been some tests very recently with regards to the accessibility of the next generation of these cars. But with the cars as they are now, by the end of a feature race, you're breathing around the Hungarian, because it really is a physical test for the drivers.
We saw Noel Leon there sitting up on the pit wall. Another good round for him last time in the points both races. Second place in the sprint race. He spoke in an interview earlier this week that he's got his eye now on feature race podiums. It's been very, very impressive for the Van Amersfoort racing team. Has Noel Leon, as we look at Arvid Lindblad there sitting in the car. What would that have done for him? A double victory, a clean sweep, record-breaking result. It's going to send big waves up the paddock, isn't it? That, because everyone was talking about him by the end of the weekend.
Yeah, not least Helmut Marko, who referenced that, his great performance, referenced everything that's going on with Arvid Lindblad. It's great to be talked about as a young driver moving through the ranks. There is potential movement higher up the Red Bull ranks. What exactly that'll be, it's hard to say at the moment, but you know, he'll be getting one piece of advice from Ollie Rowland and everybody involved with his development, which is keep doing what you're doing and keep delivering the successes that you're delivering.
Especially when you consider one of their current F2 drivers is already being looked at. I think Arvid Lindblad will be getting even further inspired from that. Well, let's hear from our Silverstone double winner, shall we? We caught up with him yesterday. Here's Arvid Lindblad.
Yeah, Silverstone was crazy. I think sort of magical is really the only word you could use to describe it. It was, yeah, like I said at the time, it was beyond my wildest dreams. Doing the double, especially even after how quali went, and to do it at home just to top it off made it even more sweet. So yeah, I don't really have any words to describe it. I think at the time I was over the moon. Then when I went home afterwards and it all settled down, I was even happier. But yeah, I think like you said, now we have this week coming up. It's going to be very different conditions. So I'm looking forward to a different challenge.
Sure, he is Arvid Lindblad, just 16 years old, up from F4 as well. He's settled into this so fast. Now, some people would have seen that as too big of a step, but he's certainly proving that wrong. He's settled into this category so fast.
He's absolutely right, though. This is about as far away from Silverstone as you can get as a prepared racetrack in terms of the challenge. The track temperature very low throughout the Silverstone weekend, even unseasonably cool. Can't believe I'm saying unseasonably cool with reference to the UK, but it was.
Yeah.
Here, extremely warm, as it so often is. And the circuit, very different in terms of its tendencies. We have these slow and medium speed, long radius corners, and then the continuous switchbacks here. Silverstone, you have that, but it all happens with a lot more downforce on the car. So the requirements of the Hungarian from a
perspective and from a
driving perspective, incredibly specific.
In this way, where there will be so often one team who get the car absolutely right, and their three drivers launch off up the road here, because there are specific things you could do to make these little cars really work around here.
there's Piotr Wisniewski. Now, what a weekend for Rodin, first of all. They won on the road with Callum Voisin, who then got a penalty, which still got him a podium, their first podium of the season. He got a 4th place as well. Piotr Wisniewski came from 30th to 5th. After the race, Callum Voisin asked on social media, was that a record? The answer to that question is yes, 25 places gained. The previous record, having looked back through, was 23 places gained. And do you remember when that was?
It might have. Was it here?
No, it was last season.
Okay, so I remember
from an F2 driver.
I remember that the year I did GP again. If you're gonna,
this is FIA F3.
FIA F3. So the year I did GP3 here, I remember a similar race, wet and dry race.
Right.
Antonio Felix Costa pitting.
Right.
During the Formula 3 race, one of the only drivers to do so,
okay.
And switching tyre from wet to slick, and did a very similar thing. But go on, so enlighten us.
It was Pepe Marti, came from 30th to 7th at Australia in the feature race. That was last season. So that was the record before, from my research. And Piotr Wisniewski now has it. So there we go. Your question, Callum Voisin, is answered, unless he'd already done his research, of course. But yes, what a result for them.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. He definitely has.
He's definitely done it.
That's a loaded question.
The research done from the truck and then put it in. What a result for them, though, the Rodin Motorsport team. Overall, big points for their team's championship, and 2 big results for their drivers as well.
Yeah, a lot of British personnel who would have been extremely happy, of course. That team carrying a different flag now as Rodin Motorsport, but they will have been incredibly happy with what they were able to achieve, and they've tended throughout their team, under their different throughout their life cycle, under their different guys, be strong around Silverstone. So that extremely good to see. Extremely good to see as well, some cars on the racetrack. A lot of tyre saving going on here, and the reason they're doing that is to try to get the cars as close as possible to the specification they're going to have them in qualifying. So they don't want to carry too much fuel when the tyre is new. They want to give the driver a feel for how the car's going to be later on in quali. So they run later into the session. They're effectively giving up track time to make the car feel as close as it will feel to qualifying. So specificity of data over quantity of data, if you like.
Yes. We will. Good to see them out on track, as you mentioned. We can see Dino Beganovic in the #1, Tim Tramnitz, the Red Bull Junior, who made 2 pit stops during that Silverstone race. There's Santiago Ramos getting himself ready to go for this practice session. So some jumping out a little bit earlier than others. Sophia Flörsch has been keeping quite busy recently, was doing the Formula 2 test just after Silverstone. We had Chloe Chambers out developing, out in the F3 car, doing some tests for the F3 2025 car. Sophia out in the Formula 2 car as well. And she was at Goodwood as well in the Lotus E20, which finished on the podium here. I got a set.
Yeah, it was a double podium for them both, of course, back in the day, as we get into it. So hello, everybody. Well, what a mess, eh? What a mess the world is in right now. CrowdStrike has taken down nearly the entire world's technological systems. Thankfully, ours are unaffected. It's just that logging into the FOM systems took time, and we had to make sure everything was working, things wouldn't boot up. So it just took a little bit of time, as it always does. But hello, everybody. Welcome back to JB Motorsports and practice coverage for the Formula 3 Hungarian Grand Prix. Cars heading out the track there with 25 minutes to go, and we'll keep you updated with everything across the next 20 minutes.
And make them more accessible to a greater group of people.
Yeah.
Is to affect the steering geometry in such a way to not be detrimental to the car's performance, but to lighten the steering load. So those changes being made in those tests and being tried by the drivers.
Yeah, Sevilla did 96 laps at the wheel of F2 Chloe Chambers, who races in the F1 Academy, doing really good stuff in that championship this year. Did 97 laps in the F3 car across the 2 days, which was on the 12th and 13th of July at Silverstone as well, just to try and modify parts to stimulate the behaviour and demands of the car. So, as you mentioned, it's just I think a very positive test, complete overall by two talented drivers across their separate field. So great to see, and Sophia now back out racing here at the Hungarian in Formula 3.
Championship leader, Gabriele Mini, making his way around to start the first of the flying laps with 25 minutes of practice only to go, which gives you a feel for the sense of where they think the tyre is going to be at. I sense a bit of legacy practice planning, though. They have been on the medium compound tyre here. We know what the medium compound is often like with the nature of its degradation. They now have the hard, and I suspect they'll wonder if they could have got more laps in at the end of free practice, given the performance we're going to see from the hard tyre.
Down the start-finish straight, Gabriele Mini takes us into the first corner, and easy corner to run wide. We're going to see them at full speed then for the first time. We'll get some flying laps on the board now from the drivers. Still many in pit lane, but we do have a few out there starting to put some times on the board.
Up towards turn 4 then for Gabriele Mini, a circuit that hasn't changed its layout greatly. There have been some changes to the Hungarian as he arcs the car in towards turn 5. I very much welcome the nice, sensible corner numbering here at the Hungarian as well. 6 and 7 is a bumpy chicane, and then through this long, winding section, get out of it and back into it through 8 and 9. Management of the throttle, ever important. 10's a flat out left, and then 11, one of the most exciting corners on the racetrack. You can't steal grip and circuit area on the way in, but you can on the way out. It's a big braking zone down towards 12. A deceptively tricky apex gravel there on the left-hand side, and as I head into 13, the tyre really tortured, and it's all about how much traction you've got left at this stage. 14, a corner you really need to be accurate, tiny bit wide for Gabriele Mini through the exit, and walks the car out onto that outside curb. Incredibly satisfying when you get turn 14 right. Lovely lap from Mini. It's a very early benchmark of a 34.9.
Yep, our pole position in 2023 are 1:31, so we're building up in lap time. First lap on the board from Gabriele Mini to give us a feel for the circuit in these very early stages of practice, despite the fact we do have 23 minutes. Here's Dino Beganovic.
Down towards turn 12. That gravel there on the left-hand side. In years past, we've seen drivers escape and run wide there, and I bet it's turn 13 where the rear tyre gives up, and that's what you see so much through that final sector. As a driver, you really get the sensation that you're spreading rear tyre all over the racetrack as you pitch the front of the car in and then ask that outside rear to deliver traction through the exit.
Piotr Wisniewski, the hard charger from Silverstone, says he's calling this a bit of a home race for him in an interview. So let's see how the Polish driver can do this weekend. Just out there with his teammate ahead, Callum Boyes in the podium finisher. Here we see Sophia Flörsch, the Alpine Academy driver, out onto the track for the first time, making her way round turn 2. Now coming out onto the circuit. Well, we spoke about that Formula 2 test she completed at Silverstone. Myself and Alex chatting a little bit more about that a little bit earlier in practice. Why don't we hear about what Sophia had to say about the Formula 2 test when we caught up with her yesterday.
Yeah, I was one of the lucky drivers to actually have 2 test days in Silverstone last week. I was allowed to drive the FIA F2 car for the first time, which was really, really nice. And to give my opinion about the steering effort actually in the F2 car. I was a little bit scared going there because I just didn't know what to expect, because there's different opinions through the paddock. But in the end, I think the engineers are really happy. We tested a lot. We did many changes on the car to make it easier but also heavier. And yeah, in the end, I think the FIA, F2, F3, whatever, they are all working a lot, really hard to actually make it drivable for a wider range of drivers, let's say. So yeah, I think it was really positive, and I definitely enjoyed it a lot.
Great to hear from Sophia. As she mentioned, positive changes being made, and what an opportunity for her as well to get out in the Formula 2 car, brand new car for Formula 2 this year, and it's gone down very well with the drivers, and a great opportunity for her to be part of modifying that even further going forward.
Yeah, it's a huge change in terms of driving style, approaching double the horsepower. Of course, the turbocharged power delivery will be something that she would have been getting used to, but also you on those kind of test days, so often you feel like you've just got going, and then they start throwing changes at you, and the car changes its complexion so much throughout the day that it's often tricky as the driver to get your head in the game when the car keeps on moving around. Of course, the engineers, mechanics, the organisation, everybody need that data out of the car. You feel sometimes like saying, guys, just let me get used to it. This is my big opportunity. Unfortunately, it's never the case, because you go testing for a reason, and that's to test things, and it sounds like she's done a great job of that.
Yeah, and with the F1 Academy series in full swing this year on the F1 support paddock for the first time, I think a very positive test complete there overall. Here we see Leo Fornaroli chasing that first win. Of course, will this weekend be its time? Caught up with him last weekend. Disappointed with how the last two weekends have gone, was Leo. Of course, he had that mistake at the Red Bull Ring. Last weekend was Silverstone was Silverstone, I think was his analysis of that. He's fallen back a little bit, hasn't he, in championship terms now, 26 points. Things can change very quickly in the championship here, but if you can get a race win on the board, it can swing back in your favour very quickly. A race win, I think, is what the Italian driver needs now.
Yeah, we look at moving in towards the end of the season, but you forget just how many points are on the table each and every Formula 3 weekend. We consider, when you look at things in Formula 1 terms, a 26-point deficit absolutely huge, because that's more than a Grand Prix win. But there are a huge number of points available every Formula 3 weekend, and Fornaroli, if this weekend worked out correctly for him, from 4th in the championship, 4 times a podium finisher this year, could leave this weekend leading the series.
That's true.
So you think about that as a huge gap moving away, but we saw back in Silverstone key championship contenders walking away without really any points to show for their weekend. So that's the nature of the beast. The Trident driver just needs to keep focused and keep delivering the laps, and things could easily switch around for him.
I mean, there are a maximum of 117 points still up for grabs in this series, basically. I think that's the point you're trying to make there, isn't it? There's still a huge amount up for grabs. So plenty of changes still to be made. As we see Leo now making his way through the second sector of this circuit. This is a crucial section of corners, isn't it? You get one corner wrong through here and the whole section is ruined.
It's a massive amount of energy to be putting through the car.
Oh, there we go. It's demonstrated.
Demonstrated by Fornaroli through the exit at turn 11, and it's a big curb there on the way in to turn 11. You feel the one on the way out as well. You're almost flat out in qualifying conditions through there. So extremely tough stuff on that outside rear tyre for Fornaroli. And it's a section you really have to set the car up for, as we see the Trident driver make his way through the final couple of corners of the lap. He will lose that lap in meaningful terms as a result of being off the road, but it will move him up to 8th for now.
Noel Leon going fastest behind him, meanwhile, 1:34.641. Gabriele Mini second. Alex Dunn in third will take a 10-place grid drop for his next race after the incident we saw. Here's a replay of Leo Fornaroli going off.
Yeah, it's so easy to damage the car over that outside curb. You can see the driver's bouncing over it. and it tends to sharpen up. Looks like they might have sharpened it up actually for this year, that outside curve. I'll have to check the race director's notes, but it can be really vicious when you've got a lot of downforce load on the car. I've seen a lot of floors damaged over that curve.
So we got Alex Dunn third. Just confirmed that in the sprint race he'll take a 10th-place grid drop for that incident at Silverstone. Montoya is fourth. Nikita Bedrin now fifth. Mega Tunith P6. Mansell seventh. Solov, Flörsch, and then Tramnitz 10th. Matthias Zagazeta, who got on the podium at Silverstone, the first Peruvian driver to do so. An emotional result for him. He's knocking on the door of the top 10 as we watch our second place in the championship in action.
Yeah, Arvid Lindblad making his way through that middle sector of the lap. Not the best first sector for him at this stage, but it is a green at sector 2. Decent amount of track evolution here. It's relatively well used, the Hungaroring. A favourite for track hire is the Hungaroring for all sorts of activities and filming and bits and bobs.
Yeah.
So they get around here, but not that much at racing speed.
Right.
So tends to move forward relatively quickly as the dust clears off and the rubber goes down. And because there are so many turns of the steering wheel here, rubbering in the circuit beneficially affects the actual lap time a lot, if that makes sense, because you're so reliant on the mechanical grip that the car's producing.
This is Tisanapol in Trapuvazak, and that's him demonstrating again how easy it is to get that section wrong.
You've thrown the weight of the car back and forth, and then finally, having built energy and temperature in the tyre, it cries enough as you make that final turn into turn 11, so you have less grip than you might think. Noel Leon, the driver, looking to try to get that feature race glory this weekend, going the right way about it, but they're still a long way off, aren't they?
Yeah.
The absolute pace. Some of that will be the difference in the tyre compound,
right?
But the rest of that will just be track development and track temperature.
2 DRS zones here, down the first start-finish straight, and then the next one straight after. Just the one activation zone as well, which is worth bearing in mind before the last corner as we go on board with Leo Fornaroli now through the chicane.
Bouncing over 6 and 7 through turn 8. It's really tricky to get out of the way as well through this section. If you are a driver that is not on a flying lap around the outside of the competitor through turn 10, and then they're doing a relatively good job of it, aren't they? Through the mid-corner of turn 11 for Fornaroli. Purple in the middle sector. He always breaks so deep in turn 12 and then arc the car all the way in. Losing the rear tyre, though, already Fornaroli, you can see temperature, pressure out of the window, and that's where you start to lose time through these final 2 corners of the lap, with the rear just not delivering you the grip you might like as you try to brake and turn and then accelerate and turn through these long corners. Jump up to 6th for Fornaroli, but he lost a little bit of time relative to the absolute fastest through that final sector.
Is Sebastian Montoya, of course, was involved in that incident at Silverstone. It's just been a season of bad luck for him. 18th in the championship. Can he recover? He had a good sprint race, not a good feature race, though. Qualifying's been his downfall so far this season. It's just the one-lap pace that seems to be getting away from him. Can the Campos driver sort that one out this weekend? This is a place where you need it, certainly.
Absolutely so. Yeah, for Montoya, he's had a few issues through the season. Nasty, really nasty shunt back in Austria. We were happy to see him jump out of the car on that one, but that's a good lap from the Campos driver. If he can get it up the field again and manage to get himself within the reverse grid again, he could have a very strong weekend here. There's Fornaroli. I suspect we were on board with him when he flicked that gravel up with the left rear tyre, and those are the challenges then through that final sector.
Yeah, we can see that's how close it was. Fornaroli pushing the limits. Here is Matthias Zagazeta. That is how close you have to run up through turn 4. Interesting corner, that one, isn't it? Because blind entry pretty much. You've got to give it absolutely everything through there.
Yeah, very much unsighted. The apex of turn 4, you can't see it. You've got one of those corners where you've got to pick a reference point
on your way in, picking his references nicely as Boyer. We're going to see a lot of that throughout this weekend, aren't we? 28th at the moment. Is that going to become first? It sure is. 4/10 clear of the field as the circuit continues to improve.
No time from Stenchorn or Browning yet. High Tech have left this very late, but I think that is about to change. Literally, they've stayed in the pit lane pretty much the whole time. Here they are now.
We saw this at Silverstone, didn't we, as well,
yeah.
from Browning, who is confident to wait until right at the end of the free practice session, try and save the tyre in order to get himself in the best possible tyre position for the rest of the weekend. Over to the left-hand side for that big braking zone, quite a bumpy braking zone as well, down towards turn 1, and it doesn't matter if you don't quite connect up that first apex, as long as you can get on the throttle and lean on that outside curb and roll then into turn 2, where you've got to be absolutely accurate. A lot of steering wheel action going on for Browning. 3 is flat, and then it's off up to that section where you've got to pick your turn-in point on the right-hand side. That board on the right-hand side really helps, and you can make sure that you turn in and connect with the apex nicely and don't get track limits on the outside.
And this, we come up now to the chicane. It comes at you very, very quickly. There's absolutely no rest around this circuit, and now we are into the very, very non-stop second sector of the circuit.
In the multiple winners club, Browning this year, the Brit, sitting 3rd in the championship. Williams Academy driver, purple first sector, and as a result of running a little bit later, one would imagine, a little bit less fuel in the car, a newer tyre than us at this stage as the circuits move forward. Big scoop of steering lock there through turn 12. He'll be ironing that out as he moves through later laps, but you can see the difference in the traction, can't you, as the newer tyre works for it through that final sector. He's leaning on it, but it gives him the traction through the exit of turn 14 and up to P3 for Browning.
Well, we had to wait a long time to see him in action, but Luke Browning comes across the line to go P4. Could become the second driver in FIA Formula 3 history this weekend to take a hat-trick of poles, joining Logan Sargent if he can do it. Well, he currently sits 3rd place in the championship so far, just 7 points behind the championship leader. We're into the final 3 rounds. We caught up with the British driver yesterday about his approach to these final 3 rounds.
I'm in this point in the championship, and I've been this point leading because of just the consistency we've been able to pull in qualifying and not overdoing it when we didn't need to, not taking unnecessary risks. And the same happens now. You know, it'd be very easy to come to the end of the championship, do a silly move trying to, you know, be a world champion, and it doesn't work out. So I think, yeah, we're going to approach it the same. Obviously, you know who you're racing against now for the final 3 rounds. So. Yeah, keeping them behind is obviously of most importance, but equally, yeah, not doing anything stupid, I think will pay off in the long run.
Well, Luke Browning, there, clearly for him, it's just a case of not taking any unnecessary risks, but I think he knows he is in a real fight for this championship. 3rd place, I think that's quite evident by the points, isn't it? But he clearly knows he's had to fight for championships before. He is a champion in the GB3 championship, Luke Browning, so he knows how to go and win titles. For him, it's a case of don't take any unnecessary risks, but when the opportunity is there, absolutely go for it.
Exactly that, exactly that. We can see that through years of watching these cars that effectively, it's about consistency. If you want to put yourself in the championship position, if you want to make it through to Formula 1, you've got to go and win some races. Yeah. That appears abundantly clear to me too, from watching these series and the drivers who make it through to the next stage. Is often 1 or 2 performances that really impress the decision makers into the passion to put these drivers in a Formula 1 car. But in terms of actually winning these series, you look at the drivers who've done so, and it's always consistency that actually generates the points and the prizes. The driver I'd point at is Ollie Goether, actually, who sits 5th in the championship at the moment, a run of 13 point scoring finishes through the beginning of the year. Has got a win, has got another podium to his name, but it's really that consistency that's put him in that championship position.
That's the same run of point scores we saw Gabriel Bortoleto do, actually, and that was enough to take him to a title. So we cannot take him out of contention yet. He's been so consistent, has Ollie Goethe, as Browning goes now for another lap. It is those big moments, isn't it? Particularly when you're in a position of Luke Browning or indeed Ollie Goethe. You've got that support of an F1 team behind you. If you can go in for those big moments and prove, I can go and win those big races, I can go and win those big championships, you just never know what could follow off the back of that in years to come.
It's a bit of a different thing, isn't it? If you're a driver, Browning rang it out through the exit of turn 9, but it's a bit of a different thing if you are a driver already affiliated to one of these key academies. Yeah, I'm talking about Red Bull, increasingly Williams or Alpine.
Yeah.
You've got to go and do the points make prizes bit and deliver the championship at the end of the year. If you're a driver unaffiliated, much as Felipe Drugovich was before he picked up his Aston Martin affiliation towards the end of his Formula 2 campaign, that's when you've got to go and win the big races, in my view, and try to snatch that attention, that affiliation. And in some way, there is a difference as well that I've seen between the drivers who have already been scooped up, who are just, you know, routinely rallying the points in, and the drivers who have got to this stage of their careers and are thinking, this is it, I've got to get these guys to notice me. And there's a difference in the way they go about their racing at this level. Yeah,
in the top 5, Leo Fornaroli, the only one unaffiliated. So for him, there is a big opportunity there as we have a look at Luke Browning with that just small lock-up.
So this was a cool lap, and then he went to push again here, Luke Browning. Interesting, the loss of grip through the second lap that he suffered relatively late in the session here. But that'll be interesting for the rest of the field to see in terms of how they plan their qualifying efforts now and how many laps are going to be available per tyre set.
Worrying signs for Dino Beganovic here, 24th. This might be a case of track limits, but nevertheless, Mini 7th, Lindblad 10th. Dino left down in 24th place, not the start to the weekend he would have wanted. He's got a chance to go and change it round in a couple more laps.
I can't see an obvious track limits penalty for Beganovic at this stage, so perhaps just not quite the car underneath him that he wants. Driver 6 in the championship, but he's a long way out of it, isn't he, in the Prema? 24th in the session at the moment, well towards the rear of the field. We've got Wirtz, Loke and Smith all on out laps as well, equally having difficult sessions. Beganovic, they're a long way down in the first sector as well.
Meanwhile, Mari Boyer leads the way, which is great news for him and the Campos Racing team. A winner on home soil this season. Martini Stenchel back with a vengeance for High-Tech Pulsate. Noel Leon is looking good for, if he can keep that pace up, for a feature race podium. Browning, Montoya, Ramos, Mini, Dunn, Voisin, Lindblad, but we watch Dino Beganovic, and possibly is he in the middle of a long run here, or is this a push lap that just isn't quite working out? He's 1.3 off.
He'll be working on his race setup now for sure. He's got a lot of traffic. You can see the difficulty. 4.3 kilometres the circuit here. One of the shortest circuits of the year, certainly not the shortest circuit of the year, but very much unsighted through the middle of the lap, so it's really difficult for drivers to stay out of the way. Beganovic just without the grip there, struggling with the car. They've settled the rear down for him quite clearly, because drivers delivering the one lap pace have more oversteer than that, but he just doesn't have the total car grip at this stage. Perhaps that peak lap not working out for him. Here's the driver we were talking about a few moments ago, Ollie Goethe, in 20th at the moment, but finishing a nice lap in the Campos.
Yeah, here he comes. He's going to grab a toe of Nicolas Solov down to the line as well, and that's going to be P11 for Ollie Goethe as well. Nicolas Solov ahead of him, who's been very impressive in recent rounds, a two-time winner this season. Ollie Goethe, great performances from him. We've got some improvements coming in these final laps through the sectors. Leo Forner, Lawrence Van Hoopen is going quicker. Sami Megatunov is going quicker as well. Let's take a look at Charlie Wirtz coming up through 4. And, oh, there we go. That's flirting with track limits.
Yep. Return of the thin blue line here, which is always welcome to help marshals, to help race control discern the limits of the track. We often see track limits losses through the exit of turn 4, though it's a relatively big bounce. One of the revelations of the season for me, Leon, doing a lovely job in the Van Amersfoort car, sitting 3rd in the session at the moment with a better first sector.
Yeah, looked like he might have ran wide there through turn 9, so I don't know if this lap will stand, but he is going slower. Did win twice around here in Euroformula Open last year against some of his competitors in this series as well, so has lots of confidence around this circuit, does Noel Leon. And he's around wide going into the final corner as well, so he has one more stab at it as he lines out a good run out of the last corner. But you mentioned, let's talk more about him then. This lap, which has fallen away from him, has really come into his own, hasn't he? Coming in as a rookie this year, as he will demonstrate an overtake for us on Alex Dunn. Just seems to be building confidence, and the most of the point scoring at Van Amersfoort has come from the young Mexican driver, who's done a fabulous job for them.
Yeah, back on the podium last time out in Silverstone, double point scoring finish was nice to see from him, and doing a lovely job at this stage. 13th in the championship, which is a decent effort for a rookie. On board with Fornaroli, who looks to have decent race pace, doesn't he? And a nice balance underneath him, nice and neutral through the exit of turn 12. The telling one is always the mid-corner of turn 13. Bumpier than it looks through the exit of turn 13, and that's why you see so many balance issues there as the sort of pit lane joins up with the track. The cars tend to bump and slide. Fornaroli, they tend to lose a little bit of time in sector 3 as the tyre goes away, and indeed Fornaroli does so, but still able to deliver lap on lap quite nicely.
And let's take a look quickly. This is where Noel Leon ran wide, so he comes through 9, 4 wheels over. That's the lap deleted. For someone like him, Kasper Stuker, I think we're about to see do the same thing.
It's 11, but yeah, he's through the exit of T11.
What I was going to say, for drive, oh, there we go, that's a similar thing. For drivers like Noel Leon, as we're at this stage of the season, for them it's a case of these performances could boost them higher up this championship next year, isn't it? And I think that's a real case of what would be on someone like Noel Leon's mind.
Yeah, or indeed keep them in this championship next year, to make sure that firstly the backing is there, secondly, as Browning finds a slightly better lap to put himself 3rd across the line, make sure the backing is there, and also make sure that the teams want to run them, which helps on both ends of the negotiation moving into next season.
Absolutely right, and it's all about that for these drivers, getting the support to keep them there. Cian Shields over the line, 7th place, and a driver that just is improving all the time since we've hit the European circuits. The tracks he knows more well, having raced in Euroformula Open last year against Noel Leon.
So, tech issues keeping us from doing our jobs again. It's CrowdStrike, isn't it, really, as well? All the systems are just sort of glitching. So, the Formula 3 bio needs to be a little bit fixed, but Formula 2 should be okay when we get to that shortly as well. But their practice session for Formula 3 included. What a time for Mario Borio as well, just continuing on. So 134, 236, got a yellow flag then as everyone tries the line now as well. We go green again, so just a quick spin and continue on. All 30 drivers have now crossed the control line and have finished their sessions. We're now going to that procedure of lining up on the grid, doing the practice start, and going on from there. It is weird and it is odd this weekend. It's not going to be as simple as what everybody is believing it to be. There's the complete times alongside us on this running order. Watch out as well, the people out of position. Look at Mansell, Solov as well, Lindblad, they're all out of the top 10. Luke Browning, though, still up there in 3rd position as well. He's got a great shot here to continue pushing on as well going forward. I've cut my finger trying to get everything set up in this commentary box as well, so that's always great news. I've been in here for 2 weeks as well because I was on holiday, so it's the first session back and all the systems need rebooting thanks to everything going on with this CrowdStrike issue as well. Luckily RPC doesn't have it, and RPC was already switched on and the auto update's off, so it's not too bad, but it's glitched some FOM systems as well, so we're still waiting to see what FOM say. Their systems for Formula 1 are unaffected. That's great news. However, we don't know about the teams yet because, of course, Mercedes you do use CrowdStrike. So have they got access to their technology? Do some of the teams who are in technical partnerships, do they have access? So we don't know what's going to happen. F3 and 2 can happen because it's different. But F1, well, we're going to see really, aren't we? Whether or not this gets delayed or not. It's a worldwide issue, and it's a worldwide fix that is needed as they head back to the support pit lane now. The Formula 3 cars not allowed to do any practice starts on the grid. That's unusual. It must be a bit out of time for what they usually want to do as well. So we're all just wondering, as we see right now, that is Charlie Wirtz, who's out on the circuit right now, but he's registered into the pit lane for us, but he is clearly out on the track. So do you see what I mean about the systems are playing up? Every car says that they are in the pit lane, but I can see, you can hear as well, Charlie Wirtz out there on the circuit. So we've got a bit of a glitches in the software, got to be found out, but it's fine. So here's the results then from practice for Formula 3 here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Murray Boyer on top for Martinez Steinshaw, Luke Browning third, Nolly on fourth, Folorelli fifth, Montoya sixth, Shields seventh, Ramos eighth, Mini in ninth, and Alexander Dune in 10th. 11th for Callum Vosin, Arvin Lindblad is in 12th, it's 13th for Ollie Goethe, 14th for Lawrence Van Hopen, 15th on the board as well for Nikita Bedrin, 16th Sami Megatunov, 17th Christian Mantle, 18th Nicholas Solov, 19th Knasapoli Japruvazak, 20th for Sophia Flörsch, 21st Tim Chamanets, Matej Zagazitas 22nd, Joshua Dufek 23rd, Max Esterson 24th, Dino Boganovic 25th, Charlie Wirtz 26th, Joseph Logue 27th, Tommy Smith 28th, Kasper Such 29th, and Peter Wisnicki going into 30th position. So that's the complete running order from FIA Formula 3 and their practice session for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Qualifying for the series is coming up later on today. Next up in about 20 minutes time, it's all the action from Formula 2's 45-minute practice session. We'll see you later on for that here at Hungaroring in Budapest, Hungary. See you later.